Good evening, everybody. I'm Andrew D. Meredith, fantasy author, and this is my wife,
Patricia Meredith, and I'm a mystery author. And we are joined tonight by the amazing Brook Peterson, who is a fellow mystery author.
Yes. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your wonderful series.
Okay, great. So I write the Jericho Falls Cozy Mystery Series. And I also write middle grade. I have one middle grade book that was published by Level Best last fall, just about this time. And it's called The Cameo's Secret. And then I'm also the co-host of Clued In Mystery podcast with Sarah M. Stephen.
Yes, who we had the joy of interviewing back in May, I think. Yeah. So that's actually how I found you and Sarah, right? Mm-hmm. Was through Clued In Mystery. I started listening, and I just, I loved it. It's wonderful.
And you've been a guest. You've come on the show.
That's right. That's right. I always forget that.
Really great and so informative because you know so much about Anna Catherine Green. That may not be the last time that you're on the show, Patricia. We may have ideas.
Oh, excellent. I love to talk about all of that. But tonight I'm very excited to talk to you about your series and return the favor, right?
Awesome.
So Brooke has this amazing cozy mystery series, and I'm very excited to talk more with her about all the inspiration behind it. Yes, this is book book one, right?
Yes, that's book one. Mm-hmm.
That's the first one. And there's is there 4 books now? Novella.
There's 3 full-length novels and 3 novellas.
3 novellas. Okay. Yes.
And then there's also a short story you can get if you want to join my newsletter. So there's a few adventures out there for those guys.
Perfect. And is your newsletter at your website?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And we have that linked down below. So definitely check that out. And then do you have your own YouTube channel or is it just the Clued In Mystery one?
I have a YouTube channel. It's not very active. So for the best content, you'll want to go to Clued In Mystery over there. And we put all of our episodes over there. So it's a listening thing. But you can listen to all the podcasts over on YouTube. And then we have started putting our toes into some live videos. So the recent one we did for our 100th celebration, our 100th episode celebration is out there on our YouTube channel as well.
Yes. And that was that when you had all the questions? We all got sending questions.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And you sent us a question too. That was really fun. We reached out specifically to some people, but then some of our listeners just provided some questions too. And because doing a podcast most of the time we're not on screen, and so that was a big deal for us to do something with faces. But we had a great time. So I think we'll start doing a little bit more of that now and then.
Excellent. Good. Nice. Yeah, that was so much fun to listen to. Yeah. Well, I so appreciate all of your research that you guys put into that, and because you're not just reading, not that just reading is, sorry, all of our booktube friends, but reading is great. But Brooke and Sarah put so much research into talking about like the history of spy novels and thrillers and all sorts of things, and it's so fascinating. You guys do such a good job of that. So
we love it. We have learned so much, and we have tried to do a series where we touch on lots of different subgenres. So we've done cozy mysteries and, like you say, spy thrillers, domestic thrillers, and tried to touch on a lot of the subgenres of mystery. There's always more though, and we also talk about authors, and like yourself, we bring authors in to interview them. We talk TV and movies, just basically anything in the mystery space. We're interested in it and we want to learn more. And so we like to share our knowledge with our listeners.
Exactly. And so it's so much fun. Well, and then Sarah's Canadian, but you're in the US.
And So we also met on Instagram.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We kind of connected over Instagram, liked each other's posts and that kind of thing. And then Sarah reached out to me and said, I've been thinking about doing a podcast and, let's chat a little bit and see if we would be a good fit. And we just really hit it off right off the bat. So Sarah and I have never met in person. We chat all the time, and we see each other like this because even though we're doing a podcast, we do have we use Zencaster, so we can see each other very similarly to StreamYard.
Yeah.
And so we see each other, but yeah, the time when we get to meet in person will be like a huge party.
Yes,
Yeah.
that will be amazing. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, before we
dive into, yes, you're right. Yes, we're supposed to start with our random questions. So we'll do 4 random questions from our pot here.
This is the part that makes me nervous, you guys. Extemporaneous speaking.
Who knows what will be? All right. Okay. Are there any books that have made you cry?
Oh, okay. So I am like a huge sap, and my mom tells the story that when I was a little girl, it would just be the end of the movie. Like it could be the happiest, but I would have to cry because it was over. And I do have that a lot in books where I get to the end and I don't want it to be over. I don't want these friends to go away. So I'll become emotional that way. But as far as like a specific book that made me cry, the first one that comes to my mind is Bridges of Madison County. That book was so sad to me, like, and that dilemma. Sometimes those dilemmas are like so emotional. So
absolutely. Oh yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I always cry at the end of Disney movies.
Yes.
Or in the middle.
Or at the beginning in the first 5 minutes. Like like up always gets me.
Well, you cried a few times today during Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, Count of Monte Cristo.
I was crying too.
I know.
That one will get you for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Have you ever cried while writing? Are there any scenes?
I don't think that I like when I'm actually writing the scene, but like then when you go back to revision and you have that feeling like, oh, I forgot about this part. You remember the story, but you kind of forget all the little things that you write. And I always know that it's working if I either get choked up when something happens or it like actually makes me chuckle. And I'd be like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So those are good signs when that happens.
Absolutely. You're doing something right.
When you make yourself laugh.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know really what that says about me, but
it says you're doing a good job.
It does. Yes. Yeah.
What fictional character would you love to go on an adventure with?
Oh, okay.
It could be to solve a mystery. It could be, you name it.
Okay. I may end up talking about this series more than once tonight because I really love Sue Grafton's Alphabet series and with Kinsey Malone, who's the main character sleuth there. And even though I would probably be scared because Kinsey is way braver than I am, I would love to spend a day with her and just like she's such a cool gal and she's so smart and she's such a great sleuth, and I would love to spend an afternoon with Kinsey.
Yeah. Have you read all of them? All to Why?
Yes, I have. I think I've read the whole series 3 times, but at least twice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those rereadable ones.
It is.
Well,
and it's so long.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many of them. You forget what happens in each one of them. And so, yeah. My mom got me hooked on those.
So did mine. Yeah. I discovered it. I was probably reading it too young, technically, but my mom was reading it. And I think when it came out, I think I was in early junior high. And so I was like, oh, well, I want to read that too. And so.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's set in the 80s, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the first one might take place in like 79 or 80. And then Sue Grafton only spread them out as if they happened 6 months apart.
Right.
Because she wanted to keep that, she wanted to keep that time when there weren't cell phones and you weren't going to be able to GPS your way to someplace. She wanted to keep it very traditional that way.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. What is your favorite book cover? Either yours or someone else's.
I really love some of those. They're like the kind of almost comic-y, like noir fiction books that have Yeah, Sarah and I actually just recently did a episode talking about book covers,
Mhm.
and I just think that they're so iconic for mystery especially, you've got the detective in his fedora and the femme fatale, you've got all the components on the cover, and it just really makes you wanna get in there and then find out, like, how they all fit into the story.
Right.
Right.
So like the painting one, like the old 1940s painting one that looks like the front of like a pulp
Yes, yeah, like
one.
the Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction kind
Yeah.
of stories. Yeah, I just think those covers are just so cool. But I also really like, some of the more simple covers that we're seeing, like
Mhm.
the Richard Osman covers that
Mhm.
are super trendy right now. I think that they also somehow harken back to that more
Mhm.
classic mystery because
Yeah.
there's maybe just the dagger and just,
Yeah.
the words, and that has
Right.
that feel of some of that golden age cover.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and with the pulp ones, with the noir ones, it's so funny how often they have nothing to do with what's in the book, right?
You can get tricked, can't you? You're like, "Well, wait, that never came up in the story."
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but
Li
you bought it.
like, are you a Doctor Who fan?
I'm
Yeah.
not, uh-uh.
Yeah. There's an episode that's all about Agatha Christie that's based on the fact that the original cover of, I think it's Death in the Clouds, has a giant bee on the front of it, which doesn't have much to do with the plot. It has a little bit, but there's this giant bee on the front. So then they made this whole episode where it's actual like giant
Alien
alien
bees.
bees that come down
Agatha Christie stopped them.
and it's
Yeah.
well, it's the explanation for her disappearance, for her 11-day disappearance
Oh, I
that really
love it.
happened. Yes, it's brilliant. If you ever want to introduce yourself to Doctor Who, that's one of the best episodes to start with because it's the least way
It's
far
standalone,
bizarre
but
out
it's
there.
still weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but
Yeah.
in a more palatable way.
Yes.
And it talks about, the mystery space, so I'm sure to love it.
Yeah.
I am fascinated by that whole Agatha Christie disappearance time.
Yes.
So I love hearing all the different theories about where she was and what was going on, and so this is
Mhm.
great. The Doctor Who has taken a stab at it. This is
Who has
awesome.
an episode, is it Tenet? During Tenet? I think it's Tenet.
Yeah, it's like one of the
10th
first 10. It's like one of
Yeah.
the first 3 episodes.
Anyway, yeah, but that whole disappearance
Yeah.
fascinates me.
Yeah.
I love reading different versions of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Me
watching.
too.
There's been a couple
Well,
different
Hitchcock with his
versions.
Lady Disappears. With
The
his on
Vanishing
that,
Lady?
Vanishing Lady was kind of based on
Oh,
that too.
was it?
Oh, totally.
I never
She's
thought
on
of
a
it that
train
way,
and
but that
she
makes
disappears
sense.
and she's
Yeah.
I gotta rewatch it
on
now.
fire and-
Yeah.
The lady vanishes.
Lady Vanishes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah. All right, do you have one last question?
No, but
Anna?
you do.
I have another one.
Yep.
Oh, the one that we always pull that I
Uh-huh.
can finally get to ask. Excellent. Everybody's been watching and you've been wondering what the random question is. Okay, I finally have a mystery author I can ask. All right, what is your favorite portrayal of Hercule Poirot?
Oh, David Suchet.
There we go. Yes, you win.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, he's my favorite. He just does such a
Yes.
great job.
Absolutely.
And it
Well,
was
too bad she's
speaking of
been-
things that speaking of things that made me cry, when he did, is it The Portrait? Is that the final story when Poirot
Yes.
dies? And the David Suchet adaptation of that is
Mhm.
just a huge tearjerker.
It's wonderful. Yes, yeah. He's hands down the best. He's so true to the actual
Yeah.
books and yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He
Yeah.
was saying what I would have said if you had said Malkovich. Probably would have just said, "Oh, and we're out of time."
Well, see you.
Goodbye."
Night, everybody.
The credits start to play.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't honestly think I like John Malkovich, but I don't think I have ever seen any of his Poirot
Was it just the one or was it
shows.
I don't
I know
know.
he just did ABC Murders, and I only watched the first episode of it because it was so dark. And I don't
Mm.
like when they take Agatha Christie and they go dark with it because it's not what she wrote, right? That's the whole point of cozy mystery is it's
Yeah.
not dark. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking as all being cozy authors too.
exactly,
All three of us.
exactly, right? Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
So now
Yeah,
you
so
have
what?
a cozy
So what's your
fantasy.
definition of cozy
Ooh.
for those in the audience?
There's a good start.
Ooh. Oh, this is so hard. I think
Mhm.
it's easier for me to say what cozy's not, like,
Mhm.
um, low to no violence, no spicy things on screen or on the page,
Mhm.
no, uh, curse words. Like I feel really strongly about having the language be clean.
Mhm.
Uh, but then this like feeling, there's always a feeling in a cozy, whether it's a cozy fantasy or cozy mystery, where like it's a I don't know, it's a collective and it's like a very I mean, I guess that's what cozy means, right? But you have this feeling of a family or a community.
Mhm.
And I think that's really important. And even when you think about an Agatha Christie, you might have had these different people that make up the party or whatever, the manor house, but there is some sort of like in communal thing that like ties them all together. And
Right.
I don't know, sometimes it's hard to describe, but I think that sometimes you read something and it is said that it's a cozy, but when I read it, I'm like, no, that's not quite it because it didn't get like the vibe or the feeling.
Right.
Mhm. Exactly.
It's interesting you say that too, because it feels like you could really make an argument for the fact that that's how they pulled off Knives Out as a cozy,
Knives Out.
even though it is Poirot not Poirot. It definitely leaned much more cozy than it could have
In some
because
ways.
it was about family, even though it's about a
Yeah.
disunified
Yeah.
family. It's still
Yeah.
about family.
Yeah.
And I think something else that's there that I feel in a lot of cozies is like there's a playfulness level. And that's what you were saying, Patricia. When you take any of those and make them really dark, you lose that playful level. And um, it's hard to talk about murder mysteries and being playful, um, but they are. And because it's more about the puzzle and the challenge and finding all the pieces that are put together than the actual crime, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So would you say yours are cozy, right? I would
Yeah.
describe your books
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
cozy mysteries. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So what in particular do you like to bring out in your books as a cozy mystery? Yeah.
And it comes back to that like feeling of like some sort of cohesion. And I love my little town because it's small enough where everybody knows everything about everyone. But then inside of that is I have like the friend group, and part of that friend group is grandma and granddaughter. But then they have this, circle around them, and I love to. Just kind of talk about and write about those relationships, the people that we would do anything for, the people that we'll fight for, those kind of things. The people so well that you can then like speak up for them or vouch for them. I love to look at those, and I always. Well, I shouldn't say always, but thus far, my books have always included a grandma and a granddaughter. Even my middle grade,
Oh, really?
we have a grandma and granddaughter relationship
Yeah.
in there, and I think that just is because of how close I was to my grandmas, both my maternal, my paternal, and then a great grandma. And it's fun for me to think about what it would be like to actually be, an adult doing things and having like your grandma with you.
Yeah.
So they have so much wisdom, and just they look at life differently because they're farther ahead than us.
Exactly. Exactly. So was and I'm blanking on her name, the grandma in Lily, is it?
Lily. Mhm.
Yeah, Lily.
Yeah.
Good name.
Yes. Is Lily inspired by your grandmothers?
She definitely is, like, I wouldn't say she's like any particular one of them,
Yeah.
but, kind of the little bits and pieces of each one of
Mhm.
them. And even, now that I have a daughter and, I can watch her relationship with her 2 grandmas, like, even kinda like the best parts of those relationships,
Mhm.
um, I just I just really love to put all the good stuff in Grandma Lily. Like, I hope that people just come away loving her.
Oh, absolutely. She's the best part of the series.
Not that she's not a problem sometimes, because
Right.
she gets herself into trouble and she can be a little pill, but you still love her at the end of the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. She's such the quintessential spunky grandma. Where you're just like, you have so much vitality and so much, yeah. Like you said, so much wisdom to pass on,
Mhm. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And yeah, yeah. I forget how old is she in the books?
So all we know is she's 70 something.
Okay.
And then, Chloe, the actual main character, is, like, late 20s. So,
Yeah.
um, they've got a pretty big age spread, but they're definitely besties.
Yeah. And I forget, is Chloe she's not the only granddaughter.
Yeah, the only that I've ever talked about,
Okay.
and so I'm assuming that that's it. You know, we do learn things about our about our characters
Yeah.
as time goes by, but so far, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. And do you want to talk a little bit about like, yeah, so why does Chloe come back and how that all sets up in the first book? Great.
Sure, yeah. So, Chloe had a tragic event happen in Jericho Falls. This is where she spent each summer with her grandparents. She loved it there, so she would go spend the summers with her grandparents, and her grandparents have one of the big mansions in this old gold mining town. It's, kind of think like Virginia City, uh, kind of a place where there's still a lot of the original buildings standing, and they have year-round people who still live there.
Mhm.
And so Chloe would always want to go spend the summer with her grandma and grandpa. But when she's 16, she has this tragic event happened. She leaves and she says, I'm never going back. But grandma calls her, and so now we're like 10 years later. Grandma calls and she tells her she got some bad test results and she needs to
Mhm.
uh, come to town quick. And so she beat feet and goes to Jericho Falls. And tiny spoiler, but you'll learn it right in chapter 1. Grandma's tricking her because she just really misses Chloe. And, then when she gets there, somebody dies, and she has to figure out the mystery.
Mhm. And so I've only read the first, I think, two. So is there a murder in every one of them?
Yes, the
Okay.
novels all have a murder mystery, but the novellas don't necessarily have. Some of them are mysteries without murder. So the Christmas novella does not have a murder. The Treasure Map Mishap does not.
Yeah.
Those two,
Okay.
yeah, because I know that's important to some people, and Sarah and I talked about that. We have an episode about if you're not into that, you
Mm.
want the caper and you want the fun and the puzzle, but you don't really want to get into that. There's some choices for you. So I think that's important too.
Yeah.
So to that, are each book and novella standalone, or is it linear? You need to read one before you can read three, and
I
two.
think they're more enjoyable if you read them linear, but each one does wrap up the case each time. There's a little bit of a through line, and there's like a very sweet and clean romance building. So I think that's where the reading them in order is best.
Right.
But if somebody picked up book 2, they'd be able to figure it all out, follow along,
Yeah.
and then just go back and get book 1.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Like a prequel.
We do not advocate that people read book series
No.
out of order. However,
No, if I know it's a series, I am like a diehard, like, I start at number 1 and I go to number 2.
Absolutely.
It's a rule for me, but
Absolutely.
I'm shocked to find out how many people, like, don't really think that way.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, to that, are you publishing through a publisher, or are you indie? Are you
My
independent?
Jericho Falls series is self-published,
Okay. Yeah.
and then the only thing I have traditionally published is the middle grade.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So to that, it's a kind of incredible in the indie community. People who don't at least have like what number of book it is on the front cover,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
like
Yes.
just put a 1 on the spine. You can do it.
Okay. Please do, because I don't want to get in there and have a spoiler. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So then the middle grade one, is that going to be a series or is that a standalone?
It's a standalone. Originally, Level Best gave me a 3-book deal, and I accepted it. But then I had like a heartache because to me, the story is one of those, the ones you get to the end, there's just a little bit of an ambiguous ending, and it always felt like that was that story to me. And I think I could have taken those characters and done more adventures, but it just felt like one of those that was just like, "No, this is these kids' a story, and
Yeah.
this is, like, this special coming of age thing that happens to them," and, so I went back to my editor, and I'm like, it's not in my heart to continue it. I really think this is what makes this story sing," and they were great. They're like, "No, that's fine, we get it."
Oh, good.
So that one will just be a standalone. If I work more with Level Best, I don't know, but
Sure. Still, it's a great accomplishment to have thinking you're going to set out to write 3, and you said, "No, I did a great job at just writing a one off." is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. I think
Well,
it's
thanks.
hard to stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about that one? Because I haven't read that one.
Yeah, absolutely. This might be my favorite book that I've ever written, and I wrote it a long time ago. My daughter she just graduated high school, and I started writing that book when she was about 3, I think. And so it sat for a lot of years. And then when I started writing the Jericho Falls series, I got it back out and was polishing it up. And again, through Instagram, I met a gal who at the time was talking about starting her own small publishing company. And, middle grade is such a different beast to market than a cozy. And I knew that I might want some help. So in the meantime, she kind of changed gears and said, you know what, she was agenting and said, I'm just going to stick with agenting, but I would take your project on if you're interested. So that's how that ended up going trad, and the other ones are self-published. But the story is about a 12-year-old girl who she's about to turn 13. So, but it's very similar in this, like, displaced, because her mom and dad at the beginning of the book decide they're going to separate, and mom goes back to live with her mom in the town she grew up in. So the main character has a little sister and a mom, and they go to live with grandma in a town called Liberty. And very soon she stumbles upon this antique locket and an antique necklace and a cameo, and doesn't really think anything of it. But when she starts wearing it around and people start seeing it, there's this talk in town, and this town legend comes up. And so her name is Jessie. Jessie has to determine what it is, what this legend is that is swirling around her family, and save the day. And all while she's hopefully trying to get her mom and her dad reunited by her birthday. So yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome. Very cool. And is it a longer middle grade? So when you say middle grade, are you like 10 chapters or like 100,000 words, or?
It's not very, it is right at, I think, 35,000 words.
Yeah.
So yeah, novella length if it was a
Right.
if it was
Adult.
an adult read. Yeah.
Okay. And geared towards 12-year-olds.
Yeah, I would say like that middle grade, middle school grades.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the discussion. I've had someone say, like, they didn't think their child who was like 9 or 10 was ready because, there is the discussion, like, mom and dad aren't doing so good.
Right.
And there's some big kid things, like some of the 8th grade girls are really mean. But I was really happy to have sent it through. My agent did an awesome job of editing it, and then also Level Best to really make sure that it met the standards of, like, it was appropriate for kids. There weren't any, like, I wouldn't have put any bad language, but also like some phrasing that it's like, we're not going to put that in there for kids, right? And it would have been anything that I would have thought of. And so it was really nice to have that help for something that's going to be marketed to a younger audience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And did you have your daughter read it?
Yeah, she's read it. Of course. So by the time it came out of the drawer and I started working on it again, she was in middle school age. So that was kind of a trip, because I was like, wow. And I wrote this, I had basically a toddler, and now you are this age. And I think that helped me as well to, like, get the voice a little better, because I was living with, that age of kid in the house. And yeah, I love this story so much. And Jessie really saves the day and clears up a whole thing that has been, like, for generations, a cloud hanging over her family's head. And so it's great.
Cool.
Awesome. And then her grandmother is involved as well, because you said
And we have the grandma and granddaughter thing again. Yeah.
That's a great theme to carry there.
Theme.
Yeah, you don't see that very often.
Yeah.
In books, that relationship, and it's such a special relationship. So Yeah.
I grew up in a very untraditional way, I think, for a lot of people my age, because my family are farmers. And so we had, including my sister and I, we had 4 generations of our family within like a city block, strip of road.
Mhm.
And we all worked together on, farm projects. We also, ate dinner together around a big table most Sundays. And um, I was so fortunate to grow up in that way and have so much interaction with all the different generations. And I think that really is one of the reasons that I like to bring everyone together like that. So I had the grandma, the mom, and the kids, and and living together in the house, and it just feels right for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stick with that. Because you just don't see that very often. And it's so important. I feel like it's coming back, right? There's
Mhm.
more multi-generational living
Mhm.
happening in America now than there has been in the
Yeah.
past, you know,
Yeah.
couple
80 years.
yeah, 80 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that necessity is actually gonna be such a good thing
Mm,
for the next generation, and
Agreed.
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So some of the characters are inspired by real people. Is the town inspired by a real place? Jericho Falls specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes and no. It's
Yeah.
a little bit like those characters because, so again, like I said, I grew up in a farm family, and you don't take very many summer vacations when you're farming because, you might get an afternoon here or there. You always have to get back to your gate.
Yeah.
And so, we would take a lot of day trips, when I was young, and Silver City, Idaho is a day trip distance from where I grew up, and Idaho City, Idaho. And I think my parents just really instilled that love of history and historic places, historic buildings for me.
Yeah.
So I always cherished those trips. And then when I was just a few years before I started, probably the Cameo secret as well, my sister and I went to Virginia City together on a little girls' trip. And that's in Nevada near Reno. And I went home and started putting down the notes that would later become A History of Murder. Not for a lot of years, but I started thinking like, man, I would love to set a mystery here because, Virginia City has so many of the original storefronts, and they're still many of them are the same types of businesses when you're talking about saloons,
Yeah.
and then but they've just done such a great job of keeping the history and the look of their city alive, and I thought it would be so fun. And so I guess if you put little pieces of all of those places together and the memories, that's Jericho Falls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are you writing right now?
So I'm working on book 4 of the Jericho Falls series. It's been a year of slow productivity for me. For a few reasons, like my daughter did graduate from high school, and
Mhm.
I did not anticipate the emotions and the busyness. We're very busy when you're doing all the senior year busyness plus getting ready for college and applying for all that. So I really just dialed back my expectations, thought, this is what's really important. And so we spent tons of family time. Um, and then, not sorry about this at all, Sarah and I are co-authoring a book together that
Awesome.
we're releasing kind of as a serialized story
Yeah.
to our subscribers over at cluedinmystery.com. We have a subscription plan, and that has been really fun. But, that takes up some creative space as well. So
What
Absolutely.
has that process been like for the two of you?
Yeah.
it has been amazing, actually, really interesting because we literally, there's a lot of different ways to collaborate. And, but we literally just pick up where the last one left off.
Yeah.
And, it's been a trip. It's been really fun. I don't think that there are very many people that I could do that with, and I think having worked together on the podcast for almost 3 years, 2.5 years, really helped because, we kinda know how each other think and stuff. But, it's a cozy-ish. It's, like, somewhere between a traditional and a cozy mystery, but very clean. Um, small town scandal kind of a mystery that we're working on.
Cool. So then one of you drafts a chapter and then run it by the other before it goes up live?
We actually have just got into a pattern of Sarah usually writes in the evenings. And so then the next morning I'll get up and see what Sarah wrote and I'll take off.
Okay.
And then we just kind of pass it back and forth. And we've only gotten, ourselves into a corner a couple of times. But, uh, and at one point we realized that there were hardly any women in our story. And we're like, what the heck? So we had to change. I can't remember what his name was originally, but it went from a C male name to Claire so that we can have a couple more women in there.
Yeah.
But, and then we've been giving it to our subscription members about 1,500 words a week. So every Friday they get a chunk.
Yeah.
And we're just about ready to finish up the manuscript. And I think the subscribers have about half of that. So we've got a few more weeks of parceling it out.
Nice.
And then are you going to publish it?
Yeah, that's the plan. Well,
Or-
it needs a lot of revision. Of course, it's like completely first draft,
Right.
stuff, which was a scary thing. That is not something that I have ever done before, letting anyone see that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it needs a revision and obviously cleaned up. And then I think we'll probably publish it later this year. Maybe by Christmas, we'll see.
So this is your first experience with beta readers?
Um, yes and no. It definitely in this, along the way scenario. But I do have two friends that live here near me that we have like a critique group that we work together and we'll share what we're working on with each other or bounce ideas off one another. And then they're always my first readers and they'll go through it with a fine tooth comb and give me my marching orders of everything that needs to be fixed.
Right, awesome.
Have they seen this one yet, or are you holding off so you can let them after?
Yeah, exactly. They haven't. I mean, of course, if they want to become subscribers, they could know. But yeah, they'll definitely be after this round of revisions, I'll be handing it to them and see what they think.
So did you guys start with an outline or are you just writing it linearly and just seeing where it goes?
We're both mostly discovery writers, but we knew that would not probably be the best when with another person, especially just the back and forth thing that we're doing. So we did a general outline, had like a general idea of, okay, here's the scenario. We actually surveyed our subscribers if they wanted us to do I can't remember the choices. They could pick a cozy or maybe we knew the cozy. I can't remember that part, but they did get to choose the age of the sleuth. Did they want it to be like a young person, a middle-aged person, or like an elderly sleuth? And they chose like recently empty nester.
Okay.
And then did they want it to be an urban setting, like a Only Murders in the Building feel, or did they want it to be like a small town village setting? And they chose the small town. So that was fun. We got to kind of meet some of their wishes. And yeah, so it's been super fun.
So I can't imagine doing that.
You guys should do it. Just start.
Well,
You write a little something. Andrew
we would fight too much.
Yeah.
But I have friends who have been asking me whether I want to do collaborative, and I'm thinking about it in like 5 years from now.
Yeah. We are actually planning an upcoming episode to talk about different ways to collaborate because now it's like interested us, like how do other people do this? Or like the Detection Club, the Golden Age group of authors who did quite a bit of collaborating, and they would like each take a chapter. And in one challenge, they took a chapter and they didn't even know what the storyline was. They just had to pick up where the next person. And so there's a variety of ways of doing it, and we're going to investigate that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I know a married couple who came. They were working in Hollywood, and now they write. And Christopher Warman writes it, and his wife does the revision, and that's it. Like that's the last time he's allowed to touch it. He hands it off to her, and she fixes it. But she's much more detail oriented, and he just writes the book, and so it works for them. But
I think that sounds like a very I think that sounds like a smart way to
Yeah.
do it. And for, this was sort of a fun thing to do
Yeah.
with our subscribers. But if you were going to seriously try to like write a whole series, I think having someone that's like maybe the main drafter and then somebody who comes back and does the revision. Or I think the other thing that could work really well is having two points of view. Like if you were going to write
Sounds good.
something more like a thriller sort of story
Yeah.
and had two narrators, that would probably be
Yeah.
easy, I say. I don't know if it'd be easy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
This is How We Lose the Time War is an epistolary between two spies from both sides of this time war,
Mm.
and they're against each other, but they're writing back and forth, and then eventually it comes to a head. But so each author took a different character and just wrote their letters.
yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the only way I can imagine ever collaborating. Because I don't write linearly. I write like
Okay.
piecemeal. I write the last part first, and then I write like scenes that inspire me, and then go back and fill in the rest as I'm going.
But you outline.
So, but I'm a huge outline. Yeah, exactly. I outline the whole thing, and then I go
Mhm.
back and do that, because then I'm like, well, this is the scene that I want to write, so that's what I'm going to write first, and then I go back. But yeah, so I can't imagine. You're so brave. You guys are so brave to share it with your readers.
Well, and I had to laugh. I'm the person who actually, plugs in the next part for the group on Fridays. And I had to laugh when I read this time. I'm thinking, this doesn't line up with what happened back, 30 pages. Like we said, when you do the thing like the car's blue and now suddenly the car's red, except
Yeah.
it was a bigger plot hole than that. And I'm like, well, we warned you. It was going to get a little wacky until it gets completely finished.
Exactly. That'd be fun though to like try to tie it all together at the end then. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
see how you can weave it all together. That is so fun. Did you guys just come up with that because of the detection club thing, or?
Well, I think, we've been seeing some people doing like serialized things, like maybe on Ream or, some people do it on Patreon where they, put stories out to their subscribers. And I think we just got inspired by some of those projects. And we both, I think, needed Sarah's just about ready to publish her fourth book. I think it's coming out I know it's coming out next month.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of spinning my wheels a little bit in book 4. So I think we both needed kind of something refreshing in our creativity. So this worked good.
Yeah. So have you ever done like NaNoWriMo? Have you ever just written a whole book in a month, or are you
I
slower?
have participated in NaNoWriMo before, and I've probably churned out that many words, but it was not like a coherent
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do that. I'm not that quick of a writer.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like with all the research so do you do a lot of research for your books? I know they're modern day, but do you still do research and are inspired by things that?
Yeah, I do. I don't think I don't do a lot of upfront research, but a lot of times usually I'll get to a point where I want to. In book 3, the cowboy poets come to Jericho Falls. There's a cowboy poetry festival, I guess.
Mhm.
And so that got me down a rabbit hole of learning about cowboy poetry and the whole art form of it. It's a big part of our Western culture. And the cowboys had these this oral history tradition, I guess. And so I got to learn a lot about that. And I ended up putting a note at the end because I learned some cool stuff and I wanted to share it. But so that's usually how it happens for me is I'll be writing along and I'll realize, oh, I don't know enough about this. Or, I want there to be some historic thing that pops up in Jericho Falls. And so I'll have to go, learn more about the mining history or whatever. And I love that. I love learning about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So with the poetry, is there poetry included? Did you write poetry?
I did not. There's actually not poetry within the book,
Okay.
but I did. In my research, I found an example of a poem that to me just completely encapsulated Chloe and also what Chloe goes through in that book. It just like
Mhm.
was exactly right. And so I reached out to the poet and asked if I could include it in at the end of the book. And she said, "Yeah, of course." So I did
Oh,
include her poem there. And
wow.
yeah, it was really cool.
That's very cool. Yeah. Ah, that's so fun. Yeah. Just realized that went dead.
Yeah.
So your covers, do you hire an artist to do your covers or do you do the covers yourself?
I do. I work with Beautiful book covers.
Okay.
And the artist's name is Stephanie Fontecha, and she's been involved through the very first one and then has continued to do each of the covers for me. Yeah, I just really like her take on it, and she was
Mhm.
great to work with. I usually give her like, okay, I think this one is the color, the color will for number 4 will be whatever. And
Mhm.
then kind of the theme, and then she kind of takes it and runs with it. And we always put the little cat Elliot on the front.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So are you a cat person? Do you have a cat?
I am probably more of a dog person, but in the last couple years, we rescued some little barn kitties that weren't going
Ooh.
to make it when their mama didn't make it a few years ago. And my husband is like a dyed in the wool dog person. Like he doesn't want anything to do with cats until these little kittens came along, and
Yeah.
now he loves them. And so we're both now, I guess.
Yeah.
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 But they're great. They're great. All the furry friends are just the best. And that's something else that we see in cozies, isn't it? Like
Yes.
a lot of times you have the furry friends represented. So that's fun.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Or feathered in your case.
Or feathered. Yes.
What about you guys? Are you a cat or a dog household?
Dog. Yeah. We have one dog and just definitely more dog people
Yeah.
than cat people.
Lazy dogs.
Lazy. Yeah. I was gonna say she's
Same.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want a dog that sits on our feet,
Yes.
tells us someone's at the door, we let her bark,
Yeah.
not answer, and she comes back and lays on our feet again. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
know. Both of our dogs are older now, and that's kind of the wonderful thing about them. And we think
Yeah.
about like if either of them are never with us, and we think about a puppy, we're like, ugh,
Yeah.
we're probably going to have to go to the shelter. I need
Yes.
another geriatric somebody who
Yeah.
just wants to cuddle.
Exactly.
What kind of dogs do you have?
We have a lab, and then we have we don't know. He's a mix, a little fuzzy mix of some sort.
Awesome. Yeah. I think mixes are the best.
Yes.
Yep. They're hard to beat.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Well, let's see. We only have a few more minutes
You had some
left.
questions you've already. You prepped too.
Did I?
No, you got through them.
What? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how long have you been doing Cluedo Mysteries? You did 4 years now? Is that right?
I think I was trying to count. I think I think we've been releasing shows for 2 years,
Yeah.
but we kind of got started in doing planning stuff about 6 or 8 months before that. So it's hard for me to really remember, but
Yeah.
right around 2.5 years that we've been working together on it. Yeah.
But 100 plus episodes, you're weekly?
We're weekly. Yes.
Wow.
And I will be completely honest. I wasn't sure that we would be able to keep up that pace.
Yeah.
But it actually it's been so much fun. And I think that that's what, kind of keeps the fire going, is that we keep it very conversational. We keep it very, easy. Our episodes are only about 20, 25 minutes. And so we've kept it doable.
Mhm. And has it eaten into or fed your reading time?
My reading time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, it has. It's become my reading time.
Right.
And so whatever topic we're researching, then that has to become my reading for that week or two.
Yeah. So what are you reading right now?
So right now I just finished oh my goodness. What did I just finish? Oh, we just read a bunch of Ronald Knox. because he is our golden age author that we're going to be featuring coming up. So I read The Footsteps on the Lock.
Right.
It's along those lines. Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I had not read very much. I hadn't actually read that much Agatha Christie, to be honest,
Okay.
before we started doing the podcast. I mean, you know, the standards, kind of the big 3 or 4 titles, but so I've read way more Christie, and then these other golden age authors that we've covered. I've discovered I really like Anthony Berkeley. He's one of my favorite golden age authors that I've read. I did enjoy Ronald Knox. I really had not appreciated the fact that he was Father Knox, and so the fact that he wrote the 10 Commandments of detection fiction. Okay, the light bulb went on for me.
I had never caught that. Yeah, I knew he was the 10 Commandments, but yeah, I didn't realize he was.
I didn't realize he was a priest.
Okay.
So just those little things just make it so worth it. So I have had to change gears though, of just like picking up whatever read I want to get to off my TBR list. It's like, no, you got to get this done for the show too. So it's been a little bit of a balancing act.
You still enjoy reading lots of mystery, or do you pick up other genres too?
I of course still enjoy reading it, but I have learned, and when we always do a TBR list before we take a break so we did one right before summer, and we'll share what we're going to read over summer break. And I shared how I'd kind of been in a reading slump, and I think part of that was that I need to break it up a little bit, and remember some of those other genres that I like to read, just to cleanse the palate. So I've been trying to work those in, even if it's just short stories or whatever, just a way to kind of freshen it up. And I'm a super nonfiction buff, which is great, and it works really well for the podcast. But I also have to be careful that I don't burn myself out and like read lighter, happier things as well.
So what kind of nonfiction? Like history or other things?
I like to read definitely history, biographies. I really like reading biographies. And I usually will get like stuck on somebody. Like I'm pretty fascinated with Edgar Allan Poe. And so I read like 3 or 4 of the, nonfiction things on him earlier in the year. And I'll do that. I'll like get into somebody. I'm kind of obsessed with Nikola Tesla as well. So I'll kind of go on a Tesla jaunt for a while. But I need to remember that sometimes it's okay to pick up a historical romance and just have fun.
Exactly.
So have you read The Prestige?
Oh, yeah.
So The Prestige. Yes. I've read The Prestige.
Okay.
You read it? Yeah.
Speaking of Tesla.
Yeah. Speaking of Tesla.
Yeah. And it's so different from the movie, right?
Yes. Yeah.
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 And what came out at the same time? Because I get The Prestige and
The Illusionist.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I think
both fantastic shows.
And is The Illusionist Ed Norton?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there was the other one that came out at the exact same time as well. So The Illusionist. No, there was another one too that was like not The Mentalist, but there was another one that was a historical figure. I know Ed Norton's character was against Rasputin, right? It's in Russia.
Remember. I know The Prestige. I know a lot more.
If that wasn't the Ed Norton one, there was another one as well that came out that was about an illusionist who goes to speak with the Tsar and is basically challenging Rasputin and kind of makes light of it. And no, that was a movie about. Never mind, that was a movie about Houdini. Houdini embarrassed Rasputin.
Oh
yes, yes. I've seen that one as well.
It came out at the same time because that was Adrian Brody. That was like the same year as The Illusionist. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Great movies.
Yes.
I probably cried.
Exactly.
We still haven't seen the current war.
I was going to say, speaking of Tesla, there's I need to see that. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
The current war. I think that one is Edison and Tesla.
Yeah, and Tesla is played by Benedict Cumberbatch. And it's about Edison, Tesla, and and the other guy from General Electric, who was all part of that whole thing.
Oh, okay.
That whole scandal.
Yeah, and I think it's Daniel
Yeah.
Radcliffe plays the third character, the marketer.
Oh, okay.
I forget who plays Edison, but it's someone huge as well. But
Like
based on their book.
JP Morgan and people like that too. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
We also love Tesla.
Yes, we love Tesla. But Poe too. Yeah.
Yes.
So what's your favorite Poe story?
I really like the Black Cat.
Okay.
And Telltale Heart.
Yeah.
We went to see. Oh, I'm not going to be able to remember it was called the Poe Show or something like that, and we went to see it. It travels, and it was in a city near us, and so it was live readings and reenactments of some of the short stories, and then cocktails or mocktails, depending on your choice, that went along with, so you had the blue eye, and it had a floating blueberry in it, and it was super fun. It was so great.
Oh my goodness, that would be perfect for this time of year.
Well, I was having just watched Kenny Monte Cristo today. I was thinking of Goldbug.
Oh, the Goldbug.
Oh yeah,
which is the first one I ever read.
Oh really? Yeah, that one's so different from all
It's
the other
so different.
Poes. Yeah.
I don't know why that's the one I ended up, and I was just, it's the first, and I was probably in junior high or high school, and I read it, and it was the most immersive thing I'd ever read. Because I could see the map. There is no map in the story, but he describes it so well that you can see the map.
You could visualize it
so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was vivid.
That's the one that was an actual competition, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. Where they published it and you had to solve it and you won something from the newspaper. If you could solve the mystery.
I'm going to read those out loud this year.
So
October.
those would be fun.
Scary Fest.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that's about all we have tonight. So, Brooke, where can we find you and your books?
Yeah. So my website is brookpetersonauthor.com. And most everything, if you go there, you'll be able to find links to most anything. And then cluedinmystery.com is where you can go for the website, for the podcast. And you can listen, though, to the podcast on any of your favorite listening apps. You can also listen right from our website if that's more convenient. Also, that YouTube channel. So, I would love to. Talk with and discuss with other readers.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely look those up if you're a fan of just sweet, cozy mysteries. They're so wonderful. They're so, and your puzzles are very good.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you, Patricia, because I love your series as well. I can't get enough of it. See, we're like those history girls.
Yep. Exactly. I love it. So, all right. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for watching live and saying hi. Oh, yeah. And we had one, Annabelle Lee. Yes, absolutely. That's probably one of my favorites of Poe. So, on that, I guess we'll say good night and have a good Labor Day weekend, everybody. And thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next week. All right, thank you, Brooke.
Thanks, guys.